toward the One, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the messenger, the spirit of guidance. Our theme for tonight is ordinary miracles. So, what is a miracle? A miracle is something that's a breakthrough from our ordinary, limited frame of reference that seems like a different world, a different dimension, mystical, unnatural. When in fact, when we experience a miracle, actually we're experiencing an aspect of the true reality in which we've always lived. But our perception and our constricted existence is in a very narrow slice of that reality that we continually create, each of us, and collectively create, and take it for granted that that is the way that things are. So when there's an anomaly, something that doesn't fit into that, we call it a miracle. It's something that should not happen, we could say, defies expectations, breaks the laws of science, perhaps. Sufis talk about a hal, H-A-L, which is a temporary state. It's like a peak experience. It could be a mystical experience. And probably all of us have had these. Sometimes they come from having worked with spiritual practices for a long time. Sometimes they arise spontaneously and naturally in certain circumstances, such as very beautiful places in nature, like the Grand Canyon or Yosemite, or seeing an incredible sunrise or sunset. Could happen listening to some music like we had a taste of before we began tonight, or seeing some art, or seeing the radiance of a newborn baby, something that just stands out against the background. The essential practice of the Sufis, as you know, is zikr, which means remembrance. And we usually think of what that would mean as we're remembering something that has been. So we've forgotten it, and now we're recalling it. In a sense, that's true, because usually we've forgotten the true nature of who we are and the true nature of the world that we live in. But I like to think of this remembrance as having a forward thrust. It's a remembering of what's becoming that has not yet been. So it's an openness to that spontaneous experience of the divine breaking through. The Sufis say that there's the new creation that takes place at every instant. So at every instant there's the potential of a breakthrough of the ways that, call it the divine, call it the transcendent, can manifest in the world that we're in. But usually we don't perceive it even when it's all around us. And why is that? The reason is that it's our nature to assume, and we don't even think about it being an assumption, we take it as the way that things are. We assume that what's going to happen in the next instant is going to be a linear continuation of the way that things have been. Be a little bit different here and there, but nothing too dramatic. So even when something is right there before our eyes, it's hard for us to see it. So how can we open ourselves to experience more of this greater richness of ourselves in the world that we're in? How can we experience more of these breakthroughs that from the starting vantage point seem miraculous, but after a certain time they seem ordinary, but ordinary does not mean dull. It's like, if you've ever been to the Busch Gardens on Vancouver Island, everywhere you look, there's these incredible roses and plants and whatever. So you could say an ordinary experience at Busch Gardens is incredible beauty everywhere you look. That's just the norm. Doesn't mean it's not wonderful. Okay? But our norm usually is same old, maybe looking forward to something that's coming, or glad that we're past something that's happened in the past, but not having that openness so these breakthroughs can take place. So again, from one end of it, they seem miraculous, there's a breakthrough. From the other side of it, when we are able to be in that experience more and more, we feel like, well, this is what's natural, which is incredibly wonderful and full of surprises, and you don't know what's coming, and there's no end to the wonders that can come. And what's then from that state is unnatural is when we slip back into our previous modality of perception, in which we come into a really constricted state of being. So we think of the purpose of spirituality as we want to awaken. We want to become awakened beings. And what does that mean? In a sense, it's waking up from a dream. It's waking up from the, like on Star Trek, the holodeck simulations. And those simulations are so real that after a while, someone who was in one could feel like, this is the way things are. If you, in a way, like when I get into a book or get into a movie, what's very enjoyable is just getting so into that it seems like that's the reality, and I'm thinking to the character in the book, no, don't go that way. Of course, I don't have control over it, or the movie, we all do this, wait, stop, look what's coming your way. But we all live in a simulation. In fact, William Tiller, who's my favorite physicist, said that his notion was that our human existence is a simulation that takes place in 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time. So eventually we can become capable of waking up to living in the 10-dimensional world in which we truly exist, which is consistent with what string theory says. String theory postulates that there's 10 dimensions, and most of those are very tiny and curled up inside, but there could be whole universes in those tiny dimensions. And we have existence in those dimensions as well as these. Just like we have ongoing existence in the subtle levels, subtle realms, subtle planes, whatever you want to call them. More recently, I've thought of them as they're different vibrational states of reality and of our own being. And when we have an experience like that, what's happened is somehow we've been able to shift our base station, like a dial on a receiver, from this frequency to this frequency, and now we're experiencing what this other higher frequency is like, which is a whole other world that seems so far removed from the physical manifestation, but it's all us. It's all part of the world that we live in, which incorporates all of these different levels. So again, another way of describing a miracle, what seems to be a miracle, is a temporary shift to a higher vibrational state in which things are very different than they are in our usual state. The colors are much richer. Sounds, even would be difficult to describe. Mystics try to describe poetically and through metaphor what the realm of the angels is like, or the realm of the Sufi say, what the realm of the jinn is like, and we can kind of hint at it with words, but those words can never capture the reality of what those realms are like, because they're so different. Our way of experiencing is from separation. Here I am having an experience of this over here, and so you get a sense of what that is like, But that's not the same as really being in that condition, that state of vibration. It's kind of like looking through a window at it, and you're seeing what can trickle down through it, but the whole richness of it can't come through unless we come into a similar state of resonance or vibration. So I'd like to intermix with what I'm sharing with you some words of Hazrat Inayat Khan and Pir Vilayat. So from Pir Vilayat, there are dimensions in glorification. One is a kind of cosmic emotion which we could translate by the word Magnificat. And there's a wazifa, a divine name, Azim. To say it is to express the emotion of the miracle of life. How wonderful. Ya Azim, Ya Azim, Ya Azim. But we can really only experience the depth of the meaning of this if we discover what we thought of as God, if we really experience that coming through our own being and coming through the life around us. That's Azim. Just imagine going through life without knowing one's real being, carrying a mask and looking in the mirror and being convinced one is what one sees in the mirror. This is the state of most of us. The miracle of life is structuring something that does not have form to start with. Pure intelligence, love, nostalgia, dedication, glorification. There are no forms, but somehow the formless manifest in music as a form, or in your being as a form. That is the miracle of life. How is it that your thoughts should be expressed in words? How is it possible that the motion of your vocal cords should communicate thought from person to person? How is the ballerina able to communicate her attunement to the crowds? And from Hazrat Inayat Khan. For all the noble qualities which are hidden in the soul will spring forth and come to bloom when love helps them and nurtures them. A person may have a great good in themselves. They may be very intelligent, but as long as their heart is closed, they cannot show that nobleness, that goodness, which is hidden in their heart. And the psychology of the heart is such that once one begins to know the heart, life is a continual phenomena. Every moment of life becomes a miracle. Another side to consider is that the idea of miracles is attached to the person of Christ. In reality, the greatest miracle of Christ that any wise person can see is the miracle of Christ's living heart, not wonder-working, but the living God presented to the world. This was the lighted faith which helped the darkness to vanish, not dogmas, doctrines, or theories, which all came afterwards. He went to fishermen and said to them, "Come hither, I will make you fishers of men." What does it mean? Does fishers of men mean fishers of money? No. He meant by this, let love be alive in your hearts, that the whole world may become your customers. There are simple people who hear about miracles and who give all the importance to what they have read in the traditions of the miracles performed by the great souls. But that is to limit the greatness of God to a certain miracle. If God is eternal, then his miracle is eternal. It is always there. There is no such thing as unnatural, nor such a thing as impossible. Things seem unnatural because they are unusual. Things seem impossible because they are beyond one's limited reason. Life itself is a phenomena, a miracle. So practices help us to change our vibration. If you've worked with, and all of us have worked with Waza'if, the divine names, they do change our vibration. And if you work with them over time, they can't help but change your vibration. They just flat out work. And I've shared the story when Diane and I first met Pir Vilayat, and we came to a retreat in Kerrville in 1979. And it had already started. We got there late. And I just looked around at the people there, and I didn't know very much about what the Sufis were going to teach or what Pir Vilayat had to teach. But looking at the people, I said to myself, whatever this is, if it can bring about transformation that I see in the people that are here, I know that it's authentic, and I want to learn about it. So I can say without a doubt that someone who sticks to working with practices that are correctly recommended and does them with sincere intention, they will work over time. They may not work as quickly as we might like, or we're going to just all of a sudden see a change. Sometimes the change is subtle and it's noticed more by other people, and sometimes after a long period of working with different ones. But they do bring about transformation. So that's one way. We can do what we've talked about in previous series of classes, which to me is like the essence of the teaching. Use life as our teacher. We can take every circumstance as a potential portal to the sacred. We can use many different ways of opening portals to awaken to a deeper reality, which seems miraculous from our starting point. And we can do this. This is something I've thought of fairly recently. It's something you can try. We can open awareness through any one particular sensory modality to experience what we've talked about before, tawil, harmonic relationship, experiencing the deeper nature of what is behind what we're perceiving. But we could do that through just one sense. So I would encourage you to try this. Go for a walk, and the only thing you're really going to become attuned to is colors around you, not your thoughts about the colors. Oh, the sky is so blue, that bird is yellow. You're just perceiving colors, and you're really trying to feel what's conveyed through those colors. So it's like you're communicating with colors. Well, we're always communicating with colors too. We're broadcasting light. We may not be able to see it. Some people can see auras, other people can't, and that's not important, but we're putting out different colors all the time. And everything we're experiencing is putting out its own vibration. And what are colors? They're particular frequencies of light, some of which we can see and others of which we can't. So you could do it through color. Another time you could go through a walk and your primary sensory focus would just be sound. Again, without thinking about what you're hearing or analyzing it or reacting to it, just becoming aware of sound, what's conveyed through all the sounds, the sound of the wind, the sound of birds, the sound of insects, the sound of your feet walking on the grass or the pavement, the sound of water going by. You could do the same thing through smell. You could do the same thing through touch. If you go to the botanical gardens, they have a sensory garden, which is really designed for blind people, but it certainly works for everyone, and you could just close your eyes and feel and see what you experience there. So that would be a way of getting past the usual modality of perception and experiencing through a different channel, so to speak, that would enable an opening to a different level of experience. What else is important? Presence, which we've talked about so many times before. Allowing ourselves to be present to what we're experiencing through the fullness of our being, through all the levels of our being, and not just I'm here, or I'm thinking about it, or I'm aware of my emotions in response to what's going on, but just bring all of us, as much as we can, open to what we're experiencing. That allows much more to come through and be communicated. Have an openness to the unexpected, especially in routine circumstances in which we tend to live out a pre-anticipated script. Oh well, I've got to go do this chore, and I know I've got to do this, and this is what's going to happen. Just kind of going through it, but open up to discovering something unexpected. Next time you go to HEB, go, well, there's some miracle waiting for me to connect with here, and you open to it, and something will happen. It doesn't have to be a great big miracle. It might be this. One time I was at Sam's Club, and they've got a section where there are some flowers, and I saw these really beautiful flowers they were an unusual color. I'd never seen this color, so I brought some and brought them home to Diane, and they lasted for weeks. I mean, it was just like, okay, here was something unexpected that just really opened something up. It could be experiences that you have, and I'm sure we've all had these. You just open up a book randomly, and there's exactly what you're needing to hear. I mean, to the T. Or you turn on the radio, and here comes this song. And it's just like, whoa. This singer is expressing exactly what I was feeling, or I didn't even realize I was feeling it. And, this really opened something up in me. So, think about this. Our normal condition, and these are just thoughts I wrote down as I was preparing for this. Our normal condition is a prolonged, altered state of consciousness. And when we break free from it, it seems otherworldly, and it seems like we've gone to an altered state of consciousness. We've gotten high. But in actuality, we're perceiving a reality in contrast to the simulation that we've been in. And that's why this seems like an altered state. But in actuality, we've gotten out of the altered state that we've been living in for so many years, at least temporarily. So again, a hall is like a temporary breakthrough. And then a maqam, M-A-Q-A-M, which means station, that becomes our usual state of beingness. That we're able to stay at that level, and then we can recognize when we slip back into the previous one, but it becomes much easier to get out of that and come back to that other place. So our progress is like that. We get a sneak preview, and sometimes we have to do a lot of work and take care of the lessons of the station that we're in, and then we get to this other place. But in between, and this is kind of tying together things we've talked about a lot in previous classes, fana, the breaking down of the old, the shattering, and baka, B-A-Q-A, the rebirth or resurrection. But in between those two, there's that unformed state where things are not known, and we don't know what's going to come. We know that the state that we were in isn't working anymore, and we know there must be something else. But if we have trust and confidence and faith that we're going to self-organize to a higher state of being, then the metaphor that fits for me is to think of like the hawk just riding the thermal upwards. And we have a hang glider here, what is it called that you ride? Yeah. So it's like just that trust that you are going to move to a different state, and you can welcome that in-betweenness, because it's the kind of the hatching place. And you can't just go from where you were and then you're fully formed in this other one. There has to be that in-between, that if it could be known in between, you'd never get to where you wanted to get to, because by definition it wouldn't be much different than where you were. And it has to be something very different from it. It's a quantum leap from where you were. So what are I thought about this too, common, ordinary miracles. There's kind of a paradoxical thing. One is synchronicity. We all have had experiences with this, and it jumps out because you go, wow, I was just thinking about so-and-so, and they called me. Or, I was thinking about this song, and here it is on the radio. I'd forgotten about it for years, and boy, this triggers off all these memories, things that happen that seem to defy randomness. They just jump out at you. So they seem miraculous, but they're much more of the nature of the way that things are, and we've been in an unnatural state, and that's why they seem that way. And I've shared this kind of trivial example many times. I got a lot of different supplements and pills I take, and once a week I put them all out, and some of them it's 3 every day, so there'd be 21 of them, and others 2, it's 14. And I'll just dump them out and put them out there, and on a day when everything is just really clicking, it'll be the exact number of several of them. And I'm not trying to do that. At first I went, oh wow, this is, and I still smile when it happens, but it's like, of course, this is, when everything's in tune, things are much more like this than what they've been in the past. So these are like the moments that happen that jump out at us. Some experience in which all of a sudden we have much greater clarity. And if you remember the Magic Eye books, if you ever did those, they just look like a jumble of black and white marks. They don't look like anything. And it takes a while to get the hang of it. You have to offset your glance, get your eyes out of focus, and look at it. And then when you get it just right, all of a sudden this 3-dimensional image jumps right out at the page. And once you see it, you can easily see it. But until you see it, if you're not going about it the right way or you're trying too hard, you just don't see anything. But the point is, when we're in that harmonious state of alignment, and we're in that harmonious state of the different vibrational levels, or at least some of the more subtle vibrational levels of our being, then things gel like that. They seem to jump out, but we've experienced more of the picture. So it would be like someone is playing some beautiful organ music, and there's all of these overtones, but one ear was totally stopped up and the other ear was kind of partially stopped up, so they just really could hear sort of the melody and a little bit of something else, but then their ears got opened up and went, oh wow, there's all of this, I didn't even realize all these other sounds were there. Well, they'd been there all along, you just couldn't hear them because there was a blockage keeping you from being able to perceive that. I remember I first got glasses in the 3rd grade, and until then I didn't know that the world just wasn't blurry. I thought, well, I didn't think it was anything unusual because that's the way everything looked. And when I got my first pair of glasses, I went, oh wow, this is very different. What's that song, I Can See Clearly Now? It's a bright and shiny day. So some more quotes from Hazrat Inayat Khan. In one stage of awakening, God becomes to the initiate a living entity. God is then no longer an ideal or an imagination, no longer one whom the person has made. The one that the person once had created has now become alive, a living God. Before this, there was belief in God, there was worship of him, her. Perhaps she was made in the imagination, but in this stage, God becomes living. And what a phenomenon this is. This stage is a miracle in itself. The God-realized person need not speak of or discuss the name of God. Their presence will inspire the sense of God in every being and change the atmosphere with it. Everyone that meets them, whether they are spiritual or moral or religious or without religion, will feel God in some form or other. And that person is not trying to do a thing. They're just being themselves. And Hazrat Inayat Khan said the purpose of spirituality is to become a natural human being. And why do we have to work so hard at it? Because life has become so unnatural. And so what do? I mean, we love going on vacation and going out into nature and beautiful places because we can feel a restoration of our condition the way it's meant to be, which is very difficult to maintain in the hustle and bustle of daily life. And yet, we can get to a place where we can have that equanimity of beingness in the midst of hustle and bustle and even chaos and strife. And it doesn't mean we're just kind of passively going, oh, whatever happens. I mean, we certainly feel and empathize, and we certainly try to change things that aren't right and need to be changed. But we can come to develop, and I love this term Hazrat Inayat Khan uses, the smiling forehead, which means that, remember that movie, The Unbearable Lightness of Being? That indomitable spirit that can't be shaken or broken, irregardless of life's circumstances, and enables us to bring something to circumstances and other people that becomes a healing presence, that becomes a source of comfort. And again, we're not trying to do a thing, we're just being in a state of vibration. And Hazrat Inayat Khan would say that when people are in two different vibrational states, the person that is in the vibrational state that's not very well organized or very strong, their vibration is going to want to tend to harmonize with the stronger vibration. So if we're really, in alchemy, there's a term of becoming adamant. If we become adamant in who we are, and it doesn't mean we're just broadcasting the same note all the time and expecting everything to go along with it, but we have that kind of certainty of being able to relate to circumstances and see past what's going on the surface, see into the depths of it, see the light that is seeking to emerge, experience the circulation of light that takes place, then seeming miraculous changes take place, and life becomes very different. So, I'd like to have us do a practice together. And this is 3 divine names together. And as you know, and for those listening to this who may not be familiar with working with the divine names, we invoke each name by saying Ya, Y-A, which means oh, and we're kind of inviting the presence of that quality. And then we say the name, which are all different, you could say different vibrational modalities of expression of the transcendent or divine in existence, through relationship with existence. And so this particular combination is going to be the divine names for divine hearing, divine seeing, and divine gratitude. So the divine name for divine hearing is Sami, S-A-M-I. So we say Ya Sami. For seeing, it's Ya Basir, B-A-S-I-R. But this hearing and seeing is not the ordinary hearing with the ears and the seeing with the eyes. It's, Pir Vilayat would say that eventually we can become the divine glance, and we can become the divine audition, the hearing. And Shakur, S-H-A-K-U-R, is the divine gratitude. So we're saying Ya Sami, divine hearing, Ya Basir, divine seeing, and Ya Shakur, divine gratitude. So I'll do this combination 3 times, and then do it with me slowly, and really try to feel the effect of the vibrations. At first, we're thinking about what each part means, but after a while you can just even let go of trying to do that and just feel the effect of the vibrations, because Arabic is one of the world's sacred languages, Hebrew is another, Sanskrit is another. And what does that mean? It means each word in those language is the embodiment of what the word means. In other words, it's not arbitrary. And in older times, in Sufism, when a teacher would give the student practices, they wouldn't tell them what the word meant. It was for them to discover by doing it. Okay, but now we've got Wikipedia, so the cat's out of the bag. So we'll go ahead and give the meaning, but the vibration is the important part. So listen to me do this, and then join with me. Ya Sami, Ya Basir, Ya Shakur, Ya Sami, Ya Basir, Ya Shakur, Ya Sami, Ya Basir, Ya Shakur. Together. Ya Sami, Ya Basir, Ya Shakur, 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 Ya Sami, Ya Basir, Ya Shakur. Once more. Ya Sami, Ya Basir, Ya Shakur. And then silently on the breath, just think Sami as you're inhaling, and think Basir on the start of the exhalation, and think Shakur on the end of the exhalation. So breathe in Sami, breathe out Basir, Shakur at your own rate. And then let go of the words and the meaning and just feel vibration. Feel what's changed in you and the atmosphere of the room. And then a little prayer that came to me when I came up with these practices. For all that I hear, and thou that hears me, for all that I see, and thou that sees me, I give thanks. For all that I hear, and thou that hears me, for all that I see, and thou that sees me, I give thanks. So now I've selected some music, and for those of you listening to this recording on YouTube, due to copyright, I can't record the music, but I will put in the comment section the music that I'm playing in case you want to try to find it, and pause the recording at this place and listen to the music. So, realize the miracle it is to have a human form in this world. Realize that you are an emergent aspect of divinity, awakening to Him herself in life, and continually enabling the possibility for new miracles to burst forth in existence.